The Writer Radio podcast is brought to you by Community Beer Works, making good beer for good people since 2012. The future of Community Beer Works is bright with a new tap room opening in 2024 at 976 Elmwood Avenue. That is coming your way at some point this year. The old tap room currently closed, but the brewery remains open, which means A, you can rent the space for an event, or B, you can still buy the beer all over Western New York and beyond as we continue to expand. Wegmans, Consumers Beverages, two of our better resources as far as picking up beer while the tap room is closed. But I highly recommend you check out some of the newer stuff like single order hazy IPA, double order hazy IPA. Both go great with wings. Get it? Single order, double order. The Whale is a classic, and there are all sorts of different varieties always coming out. And Let's Go Pills is a classic. It's Community Beer Works. Beer available everywhere. New tap room coming soon. A lot of exciting things going on, including CBW Trivia Night, which takes place Mondays at Transit Music Lounge in Depew. Get there at 7 to sign in. We'll start playing around 7:30, wrap things up around 9, and then it's your choice to stick around and enjoy beer and wings and all the fun things that Transit has to offer. Or you can get home. It's a school night. Get home at a reasonable time. Either way, we look forward to seeing you at Transit Music Lounge Mondays for Community Beer Works Trivia Night, hosted by me, Brad. I'll be there, and I hope to see you there as well. Now, on with the show. Hey, what's up? It's Brad Writer. You are listening to Writer Radio. Thank you for that. Another episode of the podcast featuring Scott Wilson as the UB Bulls have introduced their new head coach. He is Pete Lembo. We've got a lot to say about that. And after that conversation, we'll get to a little blast from the past as I dig into the archives and find something fun to entertain you as you're listening. Thank you so much for checking it out. Please do all the things that all podcasters ask you to do, which is to like and subscribe and share and rate and review and do all those things so that we can keep bringing you the action, if you will. All right, here I am with Scott Wilson. Thank you for listening. Pete Lembo has been introduced as the new head coach of the UB Bulls, and Scott, I think we share the same sentiment just based on text messages we've exchanged over the course of today. Man, did he knock it out of the park in his opening press conference.
Oh, yes. My goodness. A very, very impressive opening press conference. One of, if not the most impressive that I've seen a new UB head coach have when they were coming out, and in a lot of ways reminded me a bit of Lance Leipold, who everybody fondly remembers and who new coach Pete Lembo gave a shout out to and said he had a relationship with in his opening statements today. So that was encouraging. That was impressive. And I am excited right now as a fan and as somebody that covers the team, because there is for sure a new era in town, and I really like where it looks like it's going.
I don't know how to put into words what was so impressive about the way that he spoke, but a lot of it just has to do with sort of a common sense, non-emotional approach to the job. After 3 years of listening to, I don't even know what that was, just self-promotion, and you're always kind of wondering what this guy's thinking about and what's he trying to accomplish and why does he keep using acronyms and like all this stuff that was happening the last few years where, yeah, if you're on the surface, maybe it sounds okay, and maybe there are people who buy into it, but it just felt fake and fraudulent over the course of the past 3 years. And, we can say it more now than we could the last couple seasons. There was a genuine nature to the way that Pete Lembo spoke to the crowd today that I think is going to be incredibly appealing to us for sure, but to his coworkers, the people that are around him, and most importantly, the players. I think there is a very genuine nature to the way he presented himself today, And I don't think that's fakeable. Everything that we've heard, everything we've read about him, and the conversations we've had with people who know this guy have said, you're going to love him. And he spoke for half an hour, and I love him. I mean, that was, I'm in. I don't know that it means the Bulls are about to take over the college football universe, but I trust that they're in good hands, that he recognizes what this school is, what this program is, what this conference is, and the changing nature of college football. He seems to be on top of all of it in a common sense way that I really appreciate.
To double off of that, we had the privilege of, we went to every game. So when you go on road trips, you get to actually meet some of the people and talk to some of the people. And we had the privilege of talking with Coach Mo a lot, not inside of a typical press and coach relationship where we just saw him. He's a good dude.
Yes.
He was good to talk to and relaxed and personable. But when he got up to talk, it was very much like he went into hardcore recruiting mode. And he turned on the show. And because of that, it became hard to see who the actual person was in some of those settings, because he was
playing a character.
But yeah. And I get why he was doing it.
Me
and
too.
There's a reason why he was and is considered one of the best recruiters in the country. I mean, it's because that's the way he is. And today felt like a departure from that, because I felt like Coach Lembo was really answering the questions and was answering them in a meaningful way, instead of answering them in the way that he thought that you wanted to hear the answer. And because of that, it was very impressive. I was literally impressed with some of the thought and some of the opinions that he gave during that press conference. And I think it's a very different tone and different line. And I think one that works here. Coach Mo put together 3 of the best recruiting classes in the history of the program. There was an all-conference safety that transferred to Syracuse this offseason in Devin Grant. You can't argue with that. But this feels very much like an experienced guy that is polished, and some of those rough edges that Coach Mo had to deal with, not only with how he got the job and when he got the job, but that anybody that gets that job for the first time, including someone that never even had play calling experience as a coordinator, has to go through. And he was going through all of that. And I think that was a big problem and a big hurdle in being able to connect the recruiting classes that the Bulls had and some of the excellent transfers that the Bulls had, and actually transferring it on the field. And it feels like that has been certainly eliminated. Coach Lembo came in and put together a really good, comprehensive overview of how he feels, of his attitude about the game itself and where he wants the team to go. And then also, not necessarily recruiting, but kind of his attitude of the portal, and his attitude of where the Bulls and Buffalo as a school stands up in the group of 5, which I think is encouraging as well. We have seen coaches come into UB, and even some people in administration, and kind of just say, this is going to be a Power 5. And maybe it will be in 30 years. We don't know how the landscape is going to change. But Coach Lembo is coming in saying, this is going to be, and can be, and was a couple of years ago, one of the best group of 5 programs. And that's awesome. And that's what we're going to be again. And I've got a pretty good lay of the land and a pretty good handle about what I want to do and how to get there. And I've done it before, and I think we can do it again. And it just, all of it was very impressive and encouraging to hear.
what do you think happens from a coaching staff standpoint? I still haven't been fully informed on what happens when your head coach ditches you for a job at Alabama and leaves a bunch of guys standing behind. How do you see this playing out?
Well, that's going to be interesting. Obviously, if you take the job, you've got guys in mind that you would like to kind of bring along with you, and people that share your vision and know your vision. And that's just the way it is for everybody. But there's also an interview process that goes when you get to some places, to see what's working, what's not, and what kind of relationship can I forge with somebody, and maybe I want to keep them on staff. And I think that you see that sometimes when when a guy takes over at Virginia Tech, and Bud Foster is the defensive coordinator for 20 years, and Virginia Tech is ranked in the top 15 of defenses for 20 years. When you show up as the new head coach, you say, Bud, I'd like to keep you on.
Right.
So I think he's got some evaluation to do. I also think we don't know the guy, but judging by the way he was talking, I get the feeling like he's going to talk to the leaders of the team. Like he's going to talk to a lot of the guys on the team. And I think that might inform his decision about some of the assistants as well. Who's out here that you as players know should stick around and is worth it and has relationships with you guys and in the community that can make us better. And, players for the most part, I think have a really good handle on that. They know what's up. They know what coaches are there for a cup of coffee and what guys are there and are smart and intelligent. And I think that that's going to be part of the conversation as well. So, there's a lot of it that goes into it. I know that the Bulls just hired 2 weeks ago, a new offensive coordinator.
And a running backs coach who had his first day the day that Mo left.
Right. Coach Patnod came in and he's got a great resume and did some things, has done things across college football, specifically had some pretty good offenses down at Georgia Tech here in the last 5 years. So, he's an experienced guy, but it's going to depend on, is that spot already filled? Does Coach Lembo come in here? And that's something that is going to be worked out probably here over the next week. And I think job number one, I think for Coach Lembo is knowing that there's some talent on this roster already. I want to meet the players. I want to forge those relationships. I want to, keep what's here and hope that they can earn each other's trust as quickly as possible and hit the ground running.
My favorite thing, I think, was when he talked about doing the real stuff. And
yes.
if I paraphrase it, I'm going to screw it up. But he was talking about the real stuff and not worrying about the flash. And then he's like, I hope we have some flash too. But he talked about sort of the job being boring, or it'll sound boring when I say it, but it's just another day at the office. We're going to come in, we're going to work, and this is going to be the way that we do things. And then we're going to get the results that we get from the process. And it just all made so much sense to me. And, again, paraphrasing it does it no justice. But I think the two of us were texting back and forth while he was giving that little portion of his news conference. And I get the sense that you loved it as much as I did.
Yeah. And it started with him being asked kind of, what does a Pete Lembo team kind of look like or whatever. And he took that second and a half, 2 seconds to stop and think. And he said, I don't believe in beating ourselves. I've seen more teams lose games than teams go out and win games. And it was like, whoa, okay. That's not a flashy answer, but that is the right answer.
Yeah.
When you look at who just won the national championship, it was Michigan. And they had 5 turnovers this year. And the reason they won the championship is because they didn't kill themselves. They might not have been able to score a touchdown every drive or be flashy, but you're not going to, we're not going to hand you this game. You're going to have to come out here and do something terrific to win. But I bet you're going to make a mistake first. And when you do, we're not going to follow it up with one of our own. And they ended up cruising past everybody.
Yep.
And I love that line of thinking. I love that we're going to play hard. We're going to come to work every day. We're going to be disciplined, and we're going to go out there and we're going to do the job. And at a certain extent, I said that his press conference reminded me a little bit of Lance, in that the one thing I remember from Lance's press conference was he's making a jump from D3 up to D1, and he was asked about it. And he very casually kind of said, listen, I know that there's differences, but I kind of believe football is football. And that hit me at the time like, whoa, okay. I didn't think about it like that, but he's right. Like, doing the little things, don't turn the ball over, taking care of business every day, getting better every day. Like, it's not the cool answer. It's not saying we're going to score 50 points a game. It's saying we're here to win games, not, win favor. Like, we don't want to be the favorite on Twitter. We want to win games. Iowa hit the under every game this
right.
year. They were terrible. They are known for punting. Guess what else they did? They won 10 games and went to the Big Ten championship. Now, I'm not saying I want that. I'm not saying I want 13 points a game and a safety is a big deal. But I am saying there's something to that. And there's a thread between all of the great coaches that we think of and know of through all levels of football. And it's that. It's organization. It's calm. It's show up every day, get better every day, work every day, effort. And we're not going to kill ourselves. That makes it very, very intriguing and exciting to me. And it may sound weird to some people that, it's like
that boring is the new exciting.
Right. When mom comes home with pizza, everybody's excited. And right now, mom just came home with a big plate of broccoli. And I'm like, yes, yes. But I think that's kind of what is needed. And we've seen it. They were ranked in the top 25 with that approach. Think back to, the new offensive coordinator at Penn State is Andy Kotelnicki. And he's known at really gained a lot of notoriety at Kansas of being innovative and formations and shifts and a lot of that stuff. When he was at UB, there were games where the play was play action slant, zone right, zone left to Jared Patterson. And they scored 70 points against Kent State with that.
Right.
It reminds me, Coach Lembo reminds me a little bit of, you know what? Your playbook is 65 pages. Ours is 4. But we do these plays really, really well. And I dare you to stop it. And they're going to have that type of blue-collar mentality where we're going to do what we do really well. We're going to know who we are. And we're not going to hurt ourselves in the process. And I bet you we're going to be there in the fourth quarter. And I bet you're not going to like it. And I'm very, very excited about that. And I think if I was a player, I would like that as well. He has a very steady and fun demeanor about him, even though he's an older white guy. But I think that he's very personable. I really liked that he got emotional talking about, his friends that he's coached with and how grateful he was for those experiences and how he was a head coach. And geez, you know what? I went back to being an assistant and it opened my eyes to a lot of stuff. Like, I was able to really learn from that, and it changed my thoughts on some of the stuff. Like, I was winning before, and now I've learned even more, and I think I can add to it. The whole thing was just really, really impressive. I hats off to Mark Allnut and the whole team over there that put it together. I get it. I get it. Like, I know why it took 6 days, or whatever it took, and they were in, and that was the guy. I'm sold already, just like I'm sure that they were fairly
Yeah.
quickly in the process.
The other thing too, and this is obviously just speculation on my part, and it's almost a dream when you're here at a MAC school, a Group of 5 school. This once again, just like Lance, feels like a guy that, if it plays out correctly, could be content to hang out here. And I don't know that for a fact. Obviously, he has bounced around. We know he was a head coach and walked away from that in part because, from what we're hearing, he didn't feel the commitment to the program from the school with changes with athletic directors and school presidents and that sort of thing. He didn't like how much everything was in flux at Ball State. I just want someone who maybe, just maybe, could stick around for a while instead of constantly looking to jump to a bigger school and a bigger conference. And I'm not saying he will do that. We obviously don't even know what kind of success he's going to have. But from the half hour I spent meeting him at a podium today, it felt as though that's something I can at least think about and consider as a possibility, that maybe things just sort of settle and the program becomes the program and it becomes a machine that churns out a consistent product, and he's not just looking to jump and run away. I don't know it, but didn't you get that sense too, that maybe, just maybe,
I did.
He could stick around?
I did. And if we remember back to Lance's time, we were never thinking, geez, it's been a year and a half. Hope he doesn't go to Cincinnati because he's interviewing for everything 10 minutes after he takes a job. We didn't think that. The only time we thought was when we started winning, we started worrying about, the programs that were close to him. His wife was from Nebraska. What if Nebraska opened up? He was obviously from Wisconsin-Whitewater. What if Wisconsin opens up? And he eventually went to Kansas because it was,
close to
the
all
weirdest,
of that. Yeah.
Right, the weirdest firing ever. And he had roots and close to all that and had experiences in Kansas, in the Midwest area, and he took that job. It always felt like, Lance doesn't want to leave. He's probably going to be here. Unless a legacy program in a Power 5 situation opens up that he has emotional ties to or family ties to. And if that's the case, we will, it sucks, but we will deal with it. And I got very much the same feeling out of the 30 minutes. If Coach Lembo comes here and he wins and, after a year or two, they win a championship and go to a nice bowl game and win, and they got 10 wins, and he ends up going to Michigan, that's awesome.
That's fine. That's fine.
we can deal with that. Some of the other situations are a little bit harder to swallow when it doesn't feel like.
It doesn't feel genuine. This guy
right.
feels genuine. Lance felt genuine. Mo did not, and that's just where we are. So it's, it is what it is. In that you're a Group of 5 team, but Lance coming in and bringing success. Bobby Hurley coming in and bringing success. Nate Oates bringing success. Danny White bringing success and then leaving to go to a bigger thing. I get it. I get who we are.
And Alan Green to follow.
Alan Green to Auburn,
came
right?
In. I mean,
Ward Manuel,
Ward
Turner
Manuel,
Gill,
and
fine, all of it fine. Mo,
right.
Not fine. That's not fine. I'm not okay with coming in, winning 3 games, and quitting. I'm not okay with that. And I'm not exaggerating to say we felt it while he was here that he wanted to not be here. I know that this is a stepping stone situation for a lot of people, particularly younger coaches, younger administrators. I get it, but at least make me feel like you are here to help while you're here, as opposed to here to help yourself while you're escaping. And I got a really good sense of that from Pete Lembo today.
Yeah, and I think it's a perfectly fine attitude for any coach that gets hired at a group of five to say, hired at a group of five, build, win, and get a promotion to Michigan State or Power Five. I get that. And I think the big part that was missing of that formula is the win.
Yeah.
The win part. And
well, that part's missing, and also
and then they pulled the ripcord, and it was like,
yeah.
Wow, okay. Thanks.
The winning is missing, but also here's, I guess, the way that I would put it. If you work hard and improve the program to the point that you're getting incoming phone calls asking you about your availability, I accept that. If you're messing around and not really building and making outgoing phone calls to try to escape, I'm not okay with that. And that's the sense I get about what just went down. And that's not the sense that I get about the guy they just hired.
Right. Whatever. It is what it is. I'm ready to move on. I'm not.
I don't mean to highlight the negative to accent the positive of what I just saw today and heard today. But I'm just telling you that all the stuff that I've been missing the last 3 years seems to have come back today. And that's a good feeling.
And I heard Coach Lembo today say thank you to previous people that helped him along his way 3 times as much as I've heard thank you from the old coach who pulled the ripcord on everybody in January to go down south. And you know what? We've said it a million times. It is what it is. He's getting probably twice the money or whatever you want to say, and he didn't want to be here. But that's fine. It is what it is, and I'm very excited to move on. And I know a lot of people are very excited to move on, and I'm even more excited now that we've seen what we get to move on with and, who gets to lead us in that direction. And it's an experienced coach who knows what's going on. I loved his answer when he was talking about the changing landscape and, recruiting in the Northeast and the Mid-Atlantic area, which I also thought was cool that he said the Northeast and the Mid-Atlantic, because if you listen to the games on the radio that we do, every broadcast starts with us broadcasting to the Northeast throughout the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic region. And I was like, hey, all right, cool. He was probably listening before games in South Carolina. I love that he talked about building those relationships with coaches and how there's a lot of talent in the Northeast. And when it gets spotted by bigger schools, he understands the situation that, sometimes we're not going to be able to keep everybody here. But I'm going to build a relationship with the coach, and we're going to build relationships with the players so that, guess what, with the portal, sometimes you can go to South Carolina, which he just was, and you can be from New Jersey. And you know what? You might say, I kind of want to go home. And guess who's got a good relationship?
Yeah.
We do. And with the portal and grad transfers the way it is, that's going to be just as important as having those relationships and getting high schoolers directly. Fine. I'm not going to get, a 3-star, low 4-star guy, and he's going to go to a Power 5 program. But odds are now, and just looking at the stats, that's not where he's going to finish. And if I am able to build a relationship and tell him how interested we are and have a good relationship with the high school coach and the staff there, when that happens, they can call me and they know what they're going to get. They know who they are, and we've already had that relationship, and it can help us out in the long term. I was just really, really impressed with that. I thought that was a really good answer for any coach, really. But I thought it was a good answer for specifically a group of 5 team. And a group of 5 program that, as we talked about on the last podcast, it's so hard to just traditionally build, 26 high schoolers coming in. You're going to build from the bottom. We'll redshirt them. We'll build them up. We'll put some muscle on them. We'll teach them. third year they'll start. We'll have them start for 2 or 3 seasons. And it just doesn't work like that. You could build a guy up for 3 years and he has 900 yards and he's gone. So having those relationships and having that style now is really, really important. And just hearing him talk about it was very, very impressive. And I'm super, super excited about what's going down. I'm excited to see what the staff is going to look like.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't even talked about what he did at Ball State, which was win. The last year, he had a lot of close games, had some injuries on the offensive side, and had some coordinator turnover because they were winning so much. When he got to Texas A&M, his defensive coordinator was Jay Bateman, who is running the defense down at Texas A&M now, and was at Army and was a handful when we were facing him at Army back 6-7 years ago. And his offensive coordinator was very successful, went on to a head coaching job, and he's had really good coordinators with him. He has won in this conference. He ended up coaching over there in the West Division when they were loaded at Northern Illinois, which is why the reason his 10-win season wasn't in the MAC championship game. And, I just think he's going to come in here and settle things down and get back to basics. And I couldn't be more excited about it. And I think, I'm excited to see what the quarterback position is going to look like. He had, I believe, Keith Wenning as quarterback there at Ball State.
Mm-hmm.
He has a great FCS record. He even kind of bragged a little bit that, hey, I was at Lehigh and won here.
2002.
I'm 1-0.
Yeah.
If I'm 1-0, if we go back to 2002.
I do question this is the only time during the whole press conference where I kind of wanted to raise my hand and call bullshit was when he talked about the great atmosphere at UB Stadium in 2002. And I think I was there. I got to say, there was not a great atmosphere when UB played Lehigh 22 years ago out in Amherst. I think he might be misremembering, or maybe when you're at Lehigh, coming to Buffalo feels like a big deal. Something about that story didn't quite jive with me, but I'll let it go. I'll let that slide.
It's very possible it could have been one of those Tony Hawk performs at halftime.
Or Screech comes out in a limo, right?
Screech in a limo for homecoming type of thing. So there could have been excitement, built up around that, and he thought it was for the game. I'm with you. I was at some O2 games.
Right.
They were
maybe the spin doctors were there with something.
Right. It was, there was always
Grand
something
Funk
going
Railroad.
on in addition to the game.
Jared from Subway.
So,
I don't know.
So that could be what he's remembering, but hey, there's another Patriot League game coming up, and I'm looking forward to having a guy that's got some experience in that league that can help us with that.
0-2 against Patriot League sends you to Alabama, though.
Well, we don't want that to happen.
All right, here, last question.
I want to keep Coach Pete here for a long time.
All right, let's do it. Last question. What is a realistic timeline for the Bulls to get to Detroit? That's an exaggerated way of saying it, but you're stepping into a, not a great roster, and you've lost quite a few players from what you had. How quickly, considering it's January 23rd when he's announced as a head coach, what happens between now and kickoff in late August, early September, and how many years does it necessarily take to get back to respectability?
Well, I mean, that answer used to be 3 to 4, boilerplate. But, everything's changed with how you can recruit in the portal, transfers, all that stuff. It has changed, and we don't have any record for how he's going to do recruiting wise at UB and the relationships there. But when you're talking about turning around wins, let's talk about the fact that this is, without a doubt, considered to be one of the best special teams coordinators in the country. awards, he's looked upon without a doubt as one of those guys. Wherever he's at, they've had tremendous special teams. Think back to that Bowling Green game when on punts, the Bulls had two guys back and would just let the ball bounce and roll for another 24, 25 yards.
That was bad.
And we'd come out of that game saying, geez, we added it up. There was like 88 yards of lost yardage in the special teams game because we just didn't fair catch the ball. I feel like, geez, that's a big difference that we can close up right now. That is not going to be happening with Coach Lembo, because not only is he great, but, he just coached with a Beamer. And it's, that special teams is more than just an also round. It is a part of the game, and it is respected and honored. And that's coming. That's going to be coming as well. So some of those mistakes, I think, are going to be cleaned up. And in that Bowling Green game, that was a 10-point loss. What does that game look like if those 88 yards or whatever it was, closer in or around there, don't happen? What does it look like when they're not starting at their own 8-yard line for a half?
Yeah.
It's probably going to be different. And it's going to turn into an advantage. Now, I know that they're got, McNulty is the all-time leading kicker in UB history by a mile, and they got to replace that. I get that. I know that might be, that is an unknown. But as far as the teams that's going out there, I expect to be impressed, and I expect that stuff is going to be cleaned up, and that goes right along with what Coach Lembo said at the start, which was, we're not going to beat ourselves. And not only not and having two guys back, but also neither one of them just letting the ball bounce for an extra 20 yards.
That was horrible.
That's beating yourself.
It was horrible.
That's beating yourself. And that's some of the stuff that he's going to look to clean up. And that's some of the stuff that I'm excited about, because those little things are what wins games. Lance was big on little things. He was a detail-oriented and organized guy. And we were killing teams just by not beating ourselves. Yeah. And I'm excited to get back to that and have a really good emphasis on that. And I think that there's a pretty decent base of players on the team. There are some key areas. Quarterback, obviously, is number one as far as what's going to happen. Cole Snyder is now on a conference rival. And CJ Agbana is probably the leader, but there's also some other guys that JUCO transferred in last year that have some pretty nice arms, and we'll see what that happens. And the portal's still open. I mean, there's still guys out there, so we'll see what happens there at that position. And some of that might be based upon what he decides to do with that offensive coordinator position. But there's a lot of guys that we know that have transferred. There's still a lot of guys that haven't. I still think that there's going to be some decent play on defense. The linebackers didn't transfer as of now, and I like both of those guys a lot. Dion and Red, those guys can play. I'm excited about that. I think that you can still have some guys in the back end on defense that are going to be pretty good. Some of the guys on that defensive line that we saw kind of start to emerge in the second half of the season, I think that they're going to be okay. I think offensively, there was a lot of recruits on that offensive line to bolster some of the depth and the depth issues. I think they're going to be okay as they started to get better as the year went on, especially when Isaiah Rate went to center. I think they're going to be okay. I like some of the talent at wide receiver. McMillan, who got hurt for a good part of last year, he's still on the roster as of now. They can still leave.
Sure.
Technically 30 days. They have to re-enter their name in the portal, from what I understand, when your head coach leaves, if it's outside of the window of the regular transfer portal there in December. So if you listen to this in 2 weeks, that could all be different. They could all be gone. But as of right now, they're still here. And I still think that there's a decent young base here that can be molded, and with a couple of tweaks here and there, I think could become very competitive. The Bulls, thinking about not beating yourself, reaching the ball out at the 1 yard line when it's about to be a 7-point game against the eventual MAC champions at Miami. And it's a fumble through the back of the end zone. Stuff like that. I mean, they weren't getting blown out in games. It was a 10-point loss against a bowl team in BG, where it was a very close game in a rainstorm and windstorm, and which it always is with BG, no matter where they play.
Right. No matter what time of year. Doesn't matter.
They're immediately down 14 points against Toledo. They hung around.
Yeah.
I mean, they battled in that game against the other team that was in the MAC championship game opposite of Miami, Ohio. So, when it came to conference play, I think that there's some base there where he can really elevate it with some different coaching, certainly a different offensive system that was in place last year that just was a disaster and did not work. From what I know, Lamar Sperling is still on the roster.
Mm-hmm.
The USA Today Offensive High School Football Player of the Year last year, got banged up, was used sparingly early, but it felt like as the season went along, he was going to get used more and more, ended up with a leg injury. I mean, the guy ran for like 1.5 million yards a year ago. I bet he still can, if given the opportunity. I like the depth in the running back room. I'm cool there. There's guys, there's dudes in there. So I think that there's enough where you can be competitive, but you still need to figure out what's happening at quarterback. And that, of course, is always going to be the most important thing when you're talking about a situation like this, which is, do you have a quarterback? And those last 2 years when Coach Lembo was at Ball State, had a young quarterback, would play 4 or 5 games and get better, and then had some injury issues, and it kind of derailed them from what they were doing. And then, like you said, all the off the field stuff that was going on at the college really kind of changed his mind as far as what I'm going to be doing here, and less about being a head coach or anything like that. And I understand that. I've worked jobs where I've had a different boss every 3 months. Sucked.
Yeah.
It sucked. And that's not being the head of an organization that brings in millions of dollars and is, my job performance was broadcast on national television every time I did it.
Right.
So I can understand the frustration and why he would make a change like that. And, I'm just excited, man. I'm pumped. I'm ready to go. 219 days. Sounds like a long time, but it'll be here before you know it. And I'm ready to see this new version of the Bulls for sure.
Mike the Intern here for Strip Joints. What better way to spend your Friday night and your paycheck than at the Strip Joint? You can enjoy overpriced beer and watch nude women at the same time. And it doesn't even matter how good of a dancer you are, because she'll do all the work. Get your friends together or go alone. Just go now. Where? To the Strip Joint, where it's good, clean, wholesome fun.
Guys, just wanted to let you know the Buffalo Bills have just traded up with Dallas. They have just obtained the 22nd overall pick. The Bills are now on the clock.
Who is it? J.P. Lossman?
It's Lossman.
Is it the quarterback of the future? Because if it is quarterback, the reason you trade in this spot is to beat out Green Bay and St. Louis, 2 teams that would be interested in trying to figure out how to care about
The 22nd pick in the 2004 draft acquired from the Dallas Cowboys. The Buffalo Bills picked J.P. Lossman, quarterback from Tulane.
And the Buffalo Bills have their franchise quarterback, their next one. There it is.
I hate it. I hate it so much.
Lee Evans in the first round.
Oh, I hate
trading up.
I hate today.
I am not high on J.P. Lozman. This kid is so far away from being an NFL quarterback, and I'm not sure, what kind of a quarterback he's going to be when he's a finished product. Drew Bledsoe is a proven winner. He's a guy who's been to the Super Bowl and is a big part of the reason that this Buffalo team turned it around.
I don't think he's ready. Just from the times he's been in there, I don't think he's ready yet. I think you give him a good training camp as a starter, learn the offense a little bit more, give him more reps, give him them preseason games that you need to have a quarterback in there, and then maybe but I think near the end of the season, I think a big plus. I mean, even though he did get hurt, it was almost a plus for him, too. He got to sit back and watch and learn from Drew, be in that film room with Drew, listen to some of the things, how he prepares for a game. It's totally different when you go from college to the NFL, and I think it was good for him. But near the end of the season, I still don't think he was ready for it, and I think another good offseason and good study habits, I think he'll be all right.
When I saw J.P. Lozman in his tiny cameo appearance in New England on Sunday Night Football, it scared the bejesus out of me because he looked like a kid in 6th grade who was asking out a girl to dance for the first time.